Welcome everyone, I am Jason Shannon, author of The Zimmer Insurgency, and I am here today with this exclusive interview with Clair McIntyre, the author of the Halsin Chronicles series.
Hi there.
Welcome, Clair.
Welcome.
So currently you have 2 books in the series out, Night of Redemption and Shadowy Stillness. You've got a trailer set up, how about we take a look at that? So for those viewers that might not be so familiar with your work, how about you give a bit of a background as to what the Halsin Chronicles is actually about?
So the Halsin Chronicles are based on 4 siblings, Aiden, Memphis, Lydia, and Meridia, or Mary, who have an extremely powerful background and a legacy that they're not aware of. So with the stories, each character grows and they face new challenges against an ultimate evil. I call it the Skathgadai, which means the Shadow Thief, and the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So it's a very suspenseful series.
And it's sort of within the paranormal genre, right?
Yes, it's paranormal. There's a lot of vampires and fae and different immortal species that come through in my series.
All right, excellent. So you've recently had your second book, Shadowy Stillness, release in the past month or 2. And you've had your first book signing recently as well. So you've put out the call for a few questions to help get to know the author and get to know the books a little bit. And we're going to go through some of those questions today. So the first question is, if Hollywood wanted to turn one of your books into a film, who would you want to direct them? And then who would you think would play the main characters? And would you want it to be animated or live action?
So first, I would prefer live action, just the way that the stories are. I don't think anime would do it justice. As to the people who would be the main characters, I really can't see too many except for 2. So one being Eva Green would make an awesome Raven. She's got that dark persona, especially when she was in the Sin Cities, Woman to Die For. She had that very dark, don't mess with me, which is what Raven is, essentially. I would not want a weak character for Raven. She has to be strong. The other person I see actually is Zac Efron. He's known for a lot of his more lighter work, but I think he has really good potential to make a really good Will. He is that strong character and like that strong honor code, but at the same time, I feel that he would make a really badass vampire if he put his mind to it. He really would. Now, as to director, I love Tim Burton. And I would think that he has that really dark edge that would fit my books really well and would be an awesome director for the series.
All right, perfect. Second question. In the series, each of the Halsin members has a different problem. They seem to be targeted. Why have you targeted them like that?
Because I'm mean. No. It really comes down to the powers that they possess. So in the first 2 books that have been released so far, Aiden is the secret king of the Fae. He has been marked by the Wretch, the evil pretender of the throne, and all of her minions and cohorts to go after him, and he has that legacy that he has. It's like he has this do or die moment. He either has to walk away completely and it could lead to his death, or he has to take up the responsibilities that he is meant to take up for. Now, in the second book, Mary's cursed, but she possesses a really ancient power that has filtered through the family line and has came down to her. And so her powers are so pivotal for the world that they draw so much evil to her. Now, I haven't gotten there yet, and I really don't want to ruin the stories for the people, like the ones that are coming up. I kind of want to leave you with that bit that it's coming. But Lydia and Memphis also are really powerful characters, and they're going to come into their own very soon, and they're going to rock the paranormal world.
Nice. So, going back to the beginning, what first led you to get into writing?
Actually, my mom. I'm going to completely blame her on that. When I was a little kid, my mom used to be tired, and I used to plague her with all these little stories that were in my imagination and everything that was going around. So I remember one day when I was little, she said to me, "Oh, that's nice, sweetie. Can you write that down for me?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can." So I started writing, and I really never stopped.
All right. And when did you get into like your first serious novel? When did you really consider it to be a passion of yours?
When I was pre-teens, it was when it was more of a passion for me. I started writing Shadowy Stillness when I was 13, and I loved the book, and it's nowhere near what I've written today. Like, Shadowy Stillness when I was 13 is nowhere similar as the book I just released when I was 27, but I love the storyline. I love the characters. I wrote it first, and actually I started Night of Redemption as a follow-up to Shadowy Stillness when I was about 16, and it just didn't fit. The order wasn't right, so I swapped the order for Night of Redemption first, Shadowy Stillness, and then my next third Halsin book. So it was when I was young, when I was in my teens.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier this is the paranormal genre. You've got fae and vampires and other mythical creatures and whatnot in there. Why do you work within that genre?
It comes down to fear. A lot of my fears come out in the book. I find, like, fear of death. Like, the paranormal is really good because they're immortal characters. There's also I love superpowers. I love the idea of, I'm a history buff. I'm a huge history buff. So I love being able to go back and write in ancient Rome and ancient Greece and ancient, whatever really suits my fancy. I'm kind of random that way, but go back and write into these ancient realms and then be able to tie it into the modern day. There's also that really good character line. When you have really ancient characters, like, for example, Phoenix and Raven and Wolf, they're thousands of years old, but they're young. Like, Raven was 17 when she became a vampire. Phoenix was 19. Wolf was 21. So when you have those really ancient characters, then it shows that they don't mature. Like, you would think that they would mature with over thousands of years, and they have matured in some aspects, but really, they're the same person deep down inside, and they still have that rash boldness, that kind of teenager, childish sometimes to them, that make them very interesting characters because they have to deal with so much in the books.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what authors and or influences have aided you in your writing?
Actually, I'm going to give this one to Jason Shannon. We've been best friends since we were teenagers, and I find that I play off a lot of his works. Like, I will tell him an idea, and I'll bring him a problem, and then he'll probably bring it to me. And because we differ in genres, you're more political and sci-fi, and I'm more paranormal and romance, it gives a really different perspective on an idea, and it comes out with some of the best ideas out there. And I don't think any outside author source could influence me as much as working with another author. I'm also going to give big ups to my mother, Clair McIntyre, and my editor, Phil Duquet, because they bring in a lot of ideas to my novels too that I not necessarily thought of. My mom's read a lot of the same things I read. She has a lot of the same background that I, so she comes up with these really interesting ideas that sometimes I'm like, oh, that could work. And Phil does exactly the same too. And sometimes he's the rationale when I go off the deep end, kind of goes, no, you gotta come back.
All right. So who and or what inspired some of the characters in your book?
That's more of my family influence, friends, definitely, and atmosphere. Just people I'm around. Like, I work in a call center, so I talk to actually about 1,000 people a week, no word of a lie. And just talking to people in the situations sometimes that they get themselves into, it does affect me with my writing, because I think, really, that happened? That could work. And other times, it's just atmosphere. Like, a lot of these characters, as they go up, you'll notice that they're younger, and then as it progresses, they're older. But a lot of my teenage influences and my friend scope come out in some of the rash actions that my characters commit, especially Phoenix is more of a very bold and brash character, and he's based on like accumulation of my guy friends at the time when I was a teenager. There's also my heritage influence too. I have a British heritage, and a lot of my characters and my settings are set in Britain, though there is the Canadian influence. I not forgot my roots there. There's Canadian influence. I pick a lot of Canadian destinations at random, and there will be a Canadian influence in my book continuously. I think that proud Canadian writer.
All right. Next question. If you could choose to have lunch with any author, who would it be and why?
Honestly, Stephen King, because I would want to know, how does he stay so original after years of writing? I find right now it's hard to go. I am forever looking back at Night of Redemption and Shadowy Stillness in the third book, and making sure that they not only are coherent and that the timelines run perfectly, but I'm not plagiarizing myself. I don't want one battle scene to be exactly the same as the next major battle scene. I don't want the pivotal moment to be the same as the last one. And to have all these different pivotal scenes is ridiculous at times. You know, like, it's just, you can't be one on top of the other. You can't have the characters the same. And I would love to know how he does it all and has all these different standalone books and standalone ideas that work so well. So yeah, Stephen King.
Okay. Hopefully you don't wind up tied up in his basement afterwards, but
yeah, I'll try not to, man.
Where would you see your writing career in the next 5 years?
I'm looking to do the same thing I'm doing right now. Like, I'm hoping that more people enjoy my stories, and thank you very much for the support. I appreciate that. I don't foresee myself leaving the paranormal, the Halsin world, too much. I'm not straying too much from it. So right now, as it stands, there are 2 Halsin books that are in the works. The next one's coming out next year. The last one will follow the next year. I've actually started writing some vampire tales, because vampires tends to be people's favorite characters that I've heard when I'm talking people who've read the story. So I'm looking right now at writing Falcon's story. He is Wolf's oldest son, and he's an assassin who's got kind of a quirky nature. And he's with a girl who has rose-colored glasses and doesn't see the evil in the world, which really will make a very interesting story for an assassin who sees all evil in the world. But so his story coming out. There will definitely be a Raven and Phoenix story. They're too interesting to not have a story about the characters themselves. And then I'm looking at the Andraste tales, and those of you who've read the book, Andrastes have been throughout the series. They're a set of siblings with a really unique warrior background. There's some unique things that are happening with them that are kind of like a background story that I haven't really touched so much in the Halsin Chronicles, but not without a reason. So that is coming definitely. And then there will be standalone books too. Like, I would love to write a true crime story. You know me, I love true crime. And I would absolutely love to do a standalone sci-fi book. We were talking about it, and I have a really good idea for that, so that would come out. So we'll really see the way the cookie crumbles. I write what I write, but no, I'm not leaving this world for a while.
Okay. Have you ever had to deal with writer's block, and if so, then how do you deal with it?
Oh, yes. No, I have 3 ways that I deal with writer's block. Number 1, I play games, so play hundreds of games. It just really depends on it. But actually, the biggest game I play is Spider Solitaire. I've gone 50-0, no losses, which is ridiculous. The second way I deal with it is I will leave something that I'm stuck on and then just work later on the book, because I have hundreds of ideas that float in my head, and not all of them are coherent. So if I don't know what I'm doing right this moment, I will go into the future and then I'll work my way back. If I'm completely stuck, I'll leave a series for a little bit and I'll go and work on another book that's completely separate, and then I'll come back into the book when I get a good idea. But mostly I find it's not so much writer's block so much as writer's procrastination, because there's so much to do in a book, but there's so little time to do it, and sometimes you just get burnt out. You're like, oh, this again? But at the same time, you want to finish it, because I am forever thinking in my books, so what happens now? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the writer. I write this part. So, I mean, that's the way I look at the world.
Okay. And you kind of mentioned that you have been working on the third book in the series. Can you want to give us a little bit of details on that?
Oh, yes. Lydia Halsin is the next Halsin to face the challenge, and she is a self-proclaimed socially awkward duckling in a family of, outward fowl, and she has a confidence issue. She's this very pretty woman, but she doesn't think that people take her seriously. And she's given her first mission, and things tend to go sour. Now, her opposite is Frey, or Freyr, who's the Norse god of agriculture, fertility, rain, and sunshine. And he is the opposite of Lydia, very confident fellow. So they're facing this whole challenge of the next major evil villain. They're also facing the whole deity world, because the whole premise of backstory of the book that I was thinking of is, back in the ancient times, these deities were revered, and then people's beliefs changed. And my synopsis is, in this immortal world, what happens when the beliefs change? And you get this, two different types. You get these people who are modernizing, who've always never been in it to be me first, to rule over humans, but to be more of characters who protect humans. And then you have this small number of immortals who hate that they've lost the power, that they've ruled over humans for so long, that they stick to their old ways. So there's a conflict there. The book will also have all 7 Isles. You actually get to see the 7 Isles as they interact. There'll be new immortals. There, I hope, will be fan favorites. They're very crazy characters that I'm absolutely loving, and will probably feature out in the story later. Though the biggest change with the third book, and as we're doing this interview, I'll put it out, is I've actually changed the name of it. If you've seen my website, or if you've heard of it, I've always looked at the third book being called A Norse Revenge, and I don't like the title at all. Couldn't figure out something, and I'm actually going to release, so the new title of the third book for the Halsin Chronicles is Dangerous Realms.
Very nice. And when can we expect that on the shelves?
So I'm hoping, based on how much I've edited right now, it's completely done, by the way, so not to worry there, about partway through my first edit. So I'm hoping right now, July of 2015, that's where I'm aiming.
All right, so stay tuned to that. So that does it for our interview today. If you have any questions that we have not addressed yet today, then you can leave them in the comments below, or you can contact Claire directly through her website. And what's your website, Claire? www.clairmcintyre.com. I also have a Facebook page, which is called the Halsin Chronicles, so please, please, please like it. I always like to hear praise. Not gonna lie, we writers do, as Jason will know. Mm-hmm. And also for people who are in the Twitterverse, I have a Twitter account too, so that is Clair McIntyre at Halsin Chronicle. So please, hope to hear from you soon. All right, so like, favorite, share, leave all your comments, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Claire, for joining me.
Thank you, Jason, so much.
And have a good night.